a way for Black Lives Matter to really encapsulate on the cultural wars that we're kind of engaged in right now, in the sense of race relations in the whole entire United States. Because if you ask me, Black Lives Matter, they don't have just a true sought out outright agenda in terms of what they're doing in terms of a holism movement. Every time something happens and people are gunned down and people are shot, they come out, they yell, they scream, they protest, but they have no clear set of policy initiatives that they want to see put forward. But yet they want to see drastic change and a revolution in the sense of their cause, but they can't really explain what they want to see change. They just want to see something change. That, Mr. Mack, what do you think about these cultural wars that now they have successfully, if you ask me, they have successfully turned the national debate into a race debate, basically, which is why I say this is going to be one of Trump's downfalls, because he just doesn't get it from that aspect, from that viewpoint. And let them tell the Democratic Party they do get it.
They don't seem to have a really strong vision for what would make things better. They're just kind of hell-bent on revolution to a certain degree. And I would say that that's part of their Marxist, philosophy, where nothing matters as much as the revolution, and it doesn't really matter what comes after it as much as taking down the systems that exist. And really, people say, that they get people all juiced up, like using race, using really, the poor against the rich, using any type of a dichotomy that they can to get people angry enough to help them kind of create enough chaos. And the people who are involved don't necessarily know, what they're getting themselves into as far as what it'll actually look like if, you want to call the police for burglary or for domestic violence or for drug dealers who are selling to kids or something like that. And the cops say, well, we don't do that anymore. We're just here for violent crimes. And, there's arguments, and a lot of people are arguing, defund the police and put it into social programs. And okay, you can do that, but then you're putting a lot of people on their own for all sorts of stuff. So it's not necessarily like that people know exactly what the other side would look like. I think the people who are in charge know what it looks like because they have a definitive plan, and that definitive plan has been there since the early 1800s, in the mid 1800s with Karl Marx. And most people who want to support Black people, or who are Black themselves and have experienced different types of racism and wish that they had it, they believe that this is part of their movement. They're in it in a very pure way, and I know people who are in it in a very pure way, who believe that, hey, we are fighting for a better society, for a society with less racism. We want to highlight the reality that sometimes Black people don't get treated as well, and we would like that to change. And they think that the actual leadership and the people who made the Black Lives Matter organization, who are trying to do something else, they think that they're perverting that pure, noble agenda, when in reality it was set up as a deceptive group. Black Lives Matter is a very deceptive name, because if you disagree with the name, then there's a problem with you, and you probably are racist.
That's the times that that's the times that we're in that are really scary. And Al Sharpton really painted a great picture of this when he explained about how earlier in the 60s, white people used to look down on him in the airport, the same airport. He basically is seeing a group of young white kids saying no justice, no peace. and saying Black Lives Matter, and these same folks are more culturally woke than a lot of black people themselves. A lot of the same folks that will perpetuate this anger and madness if you do not use their hashtag in the correct manner or way, which I don't want them to start engaging with and start moving into that type of territory, but they've already started doing it in regards to, how can I put this? I guess you could say censoring free speech, because when people say all lives matter, police lives matter, blue lives matter, hey, that's their right to say that. If they don't understand your movement, they just don't understand your movement. You just have to move on. But now, like I keep saying, they're engaging into this cancel culture to where they're gonna cancel you if you like just basically disrespect them in any way, shape, or form. We had a black man sitting in the Oval Office for a decade and he didn't do nothing. So if you just want to get to the point, I mean, Black Lives Matter was created under President Obama. This is the type of stuff that people don't want to talk about. It was created under a black president. So you say they're being driven by Marxist ideology, I should say. There's a lot of speculation that they're owned by George Soros. I don't know. I want to say they're independent. They started off as an independent entity. It was created by two girls, as we all know. They created the hashtag and it went viral. But now there's just no clear pathway for them. Scary territory that we're moving into. Now we can't even say master bedroom, because say that itself alludes back to slavery in times of Jim Crow, basically.
Yeah, I heard that. So I guess what I would say about that is I've never personally experienced more authoritarian and anti-Bill of Rights people than rich white people who tend to vote Democratic or are part of the Democratic establishment or the Democrat establishment. It's a really rich elitist kind of philosophy that I was exposed to 20 years ago, and was a part of those circles, kind of almost unknowingly, because of where I went to go to college originally to play football. But it's a never-ending kind of consuming desire for change. They can't ever accept that things might be better than they were before, or that when they do get better, then finally we can have peace. It's a all-encompassing, devouring organism that I would say that they're following after. That at some point the change itself is the idolatry. The change itself is the goal. Not that the change actually leads us somewhere better, but that the change fulfills some type of psychological and narcissistic pleasure for them, that they have power over others, so that they can change things and they can change the language, they can change the culture, they can, take Aunt Jemima off the maple syrup bottles, even though she's like an amazing example of the success of, a black business person and the family disagrees. It is a very dangerous movement. I agree with that. And we are on the precipice again. It was hidden for many people in 2016. Speaking of Black Lives Matter back then, one of the major spokespersons, I can't remember his name now, but he was going around when they thought Hillary was going to win, and he was on the Steve Colbert show, and he was like, so Stephen Colbert was asking him, so what are you all about, and what is the goal? And one of the last thing he said was he wants people to be open to the idea that it's okay to take some property from others and to give it to other people based on something in history or whatever. And this is a very, Marxist socialist idea. And Colbert, kind of knee-jerk replies, he's like, well, you can't have my money. And, they laughed and joked around, but he knew that that's what they were getting at. And that is a part of what they're getting at in their ideology. Some people are privileged. They have privilege, and those people because in order for there to be injustice, that privilege needs to be taken away. And that means property values or property assets, they need to be equalized, because there's no justice until that privilege is removed. And even if that privilege was there because of your own, you came from poverty and did it yourself, or whether you got that privilege because, your parents were successful, it doesn't matter. Some people have more than others, and in the Marxist philosophy, and in socialism, in most socialisms, that's not an okay thing.
Precisely.
They attach it to, in this country, they attach it to white privilege because, well, that is very convenient.
Yes, it is very convenient at the moment, I should say, and they tie it into white privilege, but to some degree, Mr. Mack, this is where they are correct. Now, we don't believe in taking away everything in terms of actually taking away what has just made you wealthy. What you just described, that is pure command economy communism. And basically, yes, everyone's on a fair playing equal ground. That's Marxism. We're not talking about that. The Sanders movement has never talked about that at all. We just have said, instead of them basically constantly adding on piles of wealth that they'll never actually get to or spend it at all in any way, shape, or form, why not redirect some of that money to the American people, stimulate the American people, because they're going to spend money every single day on a daily basis. That money goes back into the economy and you have a prosperous economy. Businesses need consumers, and how do you get consumers to go to those businesses? Only if those consumers can do it at a good buying rate. So that's all we've ever said. Hell, in some ways, our philosophy in terms of the Sanders movement, a real progressive, stimulates capitalism. So that's what we've always argued. That's nothing more, nothing less. Now, what they are engaging in, yes, that is pure communism and Marxist ideology philosophy. We don't want to go down that direction. That's why I say they're a disorganized group from the very beginning, from just the inception of them. They were started under a black president.
Yeah, but I would say, just to stop you right there, I would say that's where the base of the Democratic Party is leading right now. Is that what you just said you don't want? That's where the party leadership is taking the left and the rest of the country. If they can.
And you're right about that. There's just no other way to go around that, because in fact, many people don't even know this. Black Lives Matter, not only did they give to Bernie Sanders in terms of their donations that people were donating from them, but they were donating to all the other presidential candidates all at the same time. So in essence, it's like, what the fuck is the point if you're just going to prop up all the other presidential Democratic candidates to go up against Sanders, to take away and stifle votes away from him? Because at the end of the day, that's all it was just a big old game. So essentially, the second person they donated to the most was Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, and then the National Democratic Party. So
I guess who's going to get the cabinet jobs if Biden gets elected?
Probably all those folks and a lot of their staffers. That's the scary part, though. That's the scary part. This is just technocratic neoliberalism politics, basically. No, Biden is capitalizing off of it because, like I keep saying, Black Lives Matter has successfully shifted the whole entire national debate around this cultural race issue. Don't get me wrong, which has always been a problem. They just have propped up the cultural issue of itself up back once more. So again, we all know this has been a plague on America, but now they propped it up in a way to where they don't know what to do with it. That's what I'm really trying to say. So they've done that, and it's because of their affiliation with the Democratic Party. They actually believe that this Democratic Party will change the narrative and change the realities of everyday life. But there's no actual policy proposals by the Democratic Party themselves. Like I keep saying, you can ask any Biden supporter what's his biggest policy, and they can't tell you.